After a week off, we're recapping the last couple weeks, looking forward to week 11. Um, we've had a lot happen in the last couple weeks. We have lost a couple teams, so recap of our week 9 scores. Caleb gets cut in our highest low score of the year, almost 90 points, but still a pretty wide margin. Crazy that Fleming was second lowest. Still plenty of breathing room. About 15 points there from last to second to last. Another high score in the 140s. We've seen a lot of those. And then week 10, we go back down a little bit. What's crazy is Caleb's score from week 9 would have been third to last in this week. So Isaiah goes, just crushed by buys. We'll get into that in a little bit. But I set a new high score for our league, dating back to last year, on the back of Jonathan Taylor just being absolutely crazy. But the last couple of weeks we've had a larger margin of losses. So Isaiah and Caleb were both significantly lower than the previous score. We see that Caleb's score of 89.66 is the highest one so far. We're going to start to see that number go up. Now there's there's 8 teams left, and this week we're all projected to be 110 or higher. Now that's not going to actually happen. There's going to be someone lower than that, but it wouldn't surprise me if definitely in the 90s, maybe even in the maybe we get the low score of 100. I imagine we'll have a little bit closer matches than the 13 and almost 15 of the last couple weeks. So Caleb gets chopped in a no crazy duds, like Tyrone Tracy being the lowest scorer with 5.2 is not that's survivable. But when everybody just has mediocre games, then it's then that's when you're going to get out. Drake May was fine, like 17.36 is definitely down for him, but that's survivable. TJ Hawkinson, 9 points, like all this is survivable, but you combine all of it together, and he gets chopped. And then Isaiah definitely has more like duds. It doesn't help that Brock Bowers does almost nothing after the previous week, going crazy. Colson Loveland, same thing. He went crazy. And then, 9.5 is a good game. 10 points out of a quarterback is tough. But Jordan Mason is clearly a backseat. Washington Commanders look just pretty bad. And so JCM has a bad game. Jalen Warren and Amari DiMarcardo, they do pretty well. Nico Collins has a great game. 15 targets is awesome. But it's tough for Isaiah. It's going to be a lot of what ifs because he had both CD and Pickens on a bye. Bucky is still injured, and so he was probably a week away from really making a run. So tough for him to get chopped at this point. Only about 2,400 left in circulation here for Fab. Brian and I have over half of that. And then Jay, Reagan, they have another good portion. Fleming has enough to make it through. And then Landon, Bailey, and Mason, they have very little. They'll be making just minor moves from here on out. A couple trades in the previous week. Landon buys Judkins from me for 100 and Manungai from Reagan for 50. Judkins is probably a player that you could play for a while. Manungai, I'm not sure if he was worth 50, but he's definitely proved himself that if Swift goes down, that he's worth having on the roster for sure. Week 11 buys, the Colts are on a bye. So Daniel Jones, Jonathan Taylor, Pittman, Warren, even Alec Pierce, they're all on bye. The Saints, I'm not even sure anyone. I guess Kamara might be startable. Maybe Yuan Johnson. but I didn't even feel like anyone was startable to even list here. So this, I think, buys impact me more than anybody. I got JT and Warren on my team, and so I'm just hoping to make it through so I can get Jonathan Taylor post bye. We've added a lot of Grim Reapers here. At some point, someone is going to be added a third time. A lot of these players are still being started. Monty, Javonte Williams, Devontae Adams. I guess it's probably easier to say who's not. Matthew Golden and Rashid Shaheed are no longer being started. Same with Jared Goff, but he might be started later on. Cam Scatabo obviously is no longer being started. So a few of these certainly won't make it to the third time of getting someone chopped, but pretty soon, it wouldn't surprise me if next week we have our first 3-time Grim Reaper. Going in descending order from the most recent week, my team is a little weaker than normal, but without Jonathan Taylor, I'm excited that I was able to get Jaylen Warren for 65 to fill in that RB2 spot. I thankfully have a lot of pretty good matchups, especially with my running backs. Devon Achane has the Commanders, and Jaylen Warren has the Bengals, and those are the two worst defenses out there. I don't love rolling Stafford out. I mean, he's a great quarterback, but the Seahawks have a good defense. So I think that's where my danger zone is. And Sam Laporta is, he's hit or miss. He's in there. I'm going to start him over Romeo Doubs, but I'm not excited about starting him. Next up, we have Reagan. Reagan, a lot of yellow here. He's in what Sleeper has, the danger zone. And yellow is not where you want to be. There's only 8 teams left, and most of Reagan's team is ranked as 8th. So that would be last. He has just a really top-heavy team where Gibbs and CMC are awesome. Reagan's projected, 123 points, but all it takes is, a bad CMC game, a bad Jahmyr Gibbs game. The rest of his team, you never know. I think, he probably gets. He needs 40 or 50 points from those 2 running backs to be competitive. So I think Reagan's definitely in the danger zone. I think for him, something to be excited about is that JMO seems to be getting back more in the game plan, and so I think he's going to be fine. My vote of confidence in Reagan is that Jameson Williams is going to carry him past at least the bottom team. Next up, we have Fleming here. Fleming's been up and down a little bit. He took second to last a couple weeks ago, and then shot up last week, and obviously his team is awesome. Rome Odunze, the reason Fleming was so low a couple weeks ago is Rome Odunze took 0 points, and last week he played great. I read a stat about Rome Odunze crushes man coverage, and so when they play the Bengals play mainly all zone, and so that's why he had no catches and no yards. But then they play a man defense team, and he kills it. He still has, I think my favorite wide receiver is JSN this year. I take him over Puka just because of the injury concerns. But JSN plays the Rams, who have a really good defense, but JSN is amazing. So I think he's going to be fine. Kittle looks like he's getting back into being a top tight end. So Fleming has a great team. He's got a little bit of money to work with. I think probably his biggest question mark are Zay Flowers and Rome Odunze. Honestly, even Debo this week, I don't know how I feel in Europe against a Dolphins team that, they're not great, but they held the Bills to a bad game, and I think that's a lot of the Bills just playing poorly. I think those 3 wide receivers can even have all bad games, and then Fleming's still going to be fine. Brian's team, he just keeps moving up and up. In Sleeper's quote-unquote danger zone, but that's because half of the league is. There's only 8 of us, and 1 is on the chopping block, 3 are in the danger zone, so the other 4 are in the quote-unquote safe area. He gets Drake May to be a huge upgrade to his quarterback. He has awesome matchups with Ashton Genty playing the Cowboys. Sleeper has James Cook as like a green matchup with Tampa Bay. I think James Cook is a good start this week, but I wouldn't necessarily call them a great matchup with Vita Vea right up the middle. It'll be interesting how the Denver, just their offense comes together. He has Cortland Sutton and RJ Harvey in a tough matchup with Kansas City. I think this game is going to be really interesting because the Broncos have looked really bad on offense and really good on defense. Cortland Sutton has had fewer targets than Troy Franklin over the last 4 or 5 weeks. I can't remember how many. And so I think like this is a game where if the Broncos can't get right on offense, they're going to be in trouble. RJ Harvey should be the starter. It looks like J.K. Dobbins is out, but I think could be a little tricky for Shank just with the Broncos offense. Jay's team, we got a lot of yellow here. He is on the chopping block. He has the lowest projected score at 111. Looks like Rachaad White is going to continue to be the starter, maybe just for one more week because Bucky is at least practicing a little bit. Last week he got some help from Troy Franklin getting in the end zone that Thursday night. He picked up Kyron Williams a couple weeks ago. Drake London has just been amazing. He has been everything that Jay wanted him to be after our trade. In the last 4 games that Drake London, so not including the bye week, in the last 4 games that he's played in, he was wide receiver 1, wide receiver 1, wide receiver 2, and then a bad game of wide receiver 46. So he's been awesome. And then even going back one more week, he was wide receiver 6. Jay's going to need him to do that again. The rest of his team, Breece Hall has a really bad matchup. So I think Breece, coming out of Thursday, I think Jay's going to be looking at a tough spot. I think Breece has a really bad game. New England's been really good against the run, and the Jets just don't look good. Landon has a great roster, all greens this week. Rico Dowdle, he had a bad game last week and still ended up as RB15. He gets a touchdown, but was held to 53 yards, and that's good enough. But in a matchup that you thought that he would have crushed it. On the flip side, from Brian had a couple Broncos. Now Landon has a couple Chiefs. He's got Rashee Rice, Travis Kelce going up against a great defense. I think this is just a really interesting game that – I mean, obviously you're starting Rice, you're probably starting Kelce. There's no one else on this team that I would start over him. But I just think that this game could be a really ugly game. Like it could be like a good defensive game, a 10-7 type of game, or it also could be a 28-25, 28-24 game where there's plenty of points to go around. Landon does not have much fab. But he gets Bucky for 35, which at the time I was thinking that's not great. We haven't heard a lot from Bucky, but now hearing that he started to practice, that could have been just a great bid for him. Bailey is he's our number 1 ranked in sleeper this week. He just has a fantastic team. He spends a lot this week, so he spends $201 on CeeDee Lamb, beating me out by 25, which is a little disappointing. He also gets Brock Bowers for 75, beating out Brian by 5. He also gets Pickens for 20. So he picks up 3 players in this last week. His wide receivers are amazing. He has Amon-Ra, Jamar Chase, CeeDee Lamb. I mean, those are wide receivers you're definitely starting. He also has Pickens as his 4th wide receiver. His running back room's not quite as good as we see here, that we have Henry and Etienne as our lower RBs. especially this week with Henry going up against the Browns. But the rest of his team is so solid. One of the best tight ends, some of the best wide receivers. With Lamar, even though he didn't practice yesterday, I still think he's going to suit up. Bailey, he doesn't have much money, but this is a team that certainly could make it to the end. Mason's team, we're back to a good amount of yellow here. Patrick Mahomes, it'll be interesting again, this Denver game. Saquon has just been brutal. He's had one really good game, a couple decent games, but not a whole lot going on for Saquon, who we're thinking of as one of the best running backs in the league. He's been a solid running back, but just not for where he was drafted or what was spent on him. Mason's team is he's in a really tough spot. He has $16 with very little to show for it. A.J. Brown has even said, if you have him in fantasy, go ahead and drop him. I mean, he's super frustrated. Maybe that means he's going to have just an awesome week, though. I definitely wouldn't go through dropping A.J. Brown. Maybe the squeaky wheel gets some grease here. But that offense, at least Monday night, just, man, they look bad. And to have Saquon and A.J. Brown on the same bad team, that's tough. Charbonnet plays the Rams, who are the best against the run. He does get Nico Collins this week, so he spends $100 for Nico, who just came off a 15-target game with a backup quarterback, with another good matchup here with Tennessee. So I think Nico has a good game for him, but Mason is definitely on the chopping block. Rankings are pretty aligned across both platforms, and it gets easier, when we only have 8 teams. Bailey's at the top, Jay, Mason, Reagan at the bottom. I think Jay and Mason are the two obvious worst teams here. They're Mason overall, long term, I think is worse just because he has $16. Jay, on the other hand, has $470. So it's just more that Jay can do. But Mason and Jay, I think this week are on the chopping block here. Monday Night Football could be interesting. Speaking of those teams, we got Nico Collins going for Mason, so it could be going down to the last day. But we got a lot of good players here: Dak, Javonte, CD, Pickens, Ferguson, even. So hopefully we'll go into Monday night and we'll have a little bit of question marks here of who's going home. It's more fun watching Monday night with things that we actually get to watch and impact our league. And less of a hot take here, but I think Mason goes home. I think I don't have that on the next slide, but I do worry about A.J. Brown. I think he's serious when he says drop him. I think eventually he's going to get going. I just don't think it's this week. Devontae Smith has really taken over that wide receiver 1 spot there. So to have both Saquon and A.J. Brown on a team that their offense is not great. Zach Ertz against Miami could be decent, but we're at the point of the year that we're not looking for decent. We're looking for excellent. Mason could definitely get 100 points, and that might not be enough this week. There's only 8 teams, and we're going to see a higher lowest team this week for sure. But good luck this week. Don't get chopped. Hopefully see you all next week.